The greatest evil is not now done in those sordid dens of crime that Dickens loved to paint. It is not done even in the concentration camps and the labor camps. In those, we see its final result. But it is conceived and ordered, moved, seconded, carried, and minuted in clean, carpeted, warmed, and well-lighted offices by quiet men with white collars and cut fingernails and smooth, shaven cheeks who do not need to raise their voices. Welcome to another episode of Ideas Have Consequences with me, Alex Taunton. And today's episode is going to be somewhat discombobulated and raw. I've just stepped into the studio and was informed that Charlie Kirk has been shot. Now, you will be seeing this sometime later, and you will have a lot more information than I have right now. Unless what I just saw was AI, I cannot imagine that Charlie survived that. I hope I'm wrong. Lord, please spare his life. Please spare his life for his young wife and family. I've met Charlie. I cannot pretend to know Charlie well. I don't. I've met Charlie at Mar-a-Lago. We stayed in a hotel together down there and had dinner together. Very bright, capable guy, very passionate. What you would see of Charlie Kirk on stage is exactly what you see off stage. Charlie Kirk was very genuine, a firm believer in the things he was saying and the activities he was engaging in. He believed very, very passionately in the cause of MAGA. But more than that, Charlie was a firm believer. He was a believer in Jesus Christ. He was a man of deep conviction, or rather, I hope is a man of deep conviction. And again, you'll be seeing this sometime later. So please understand that I have just been informed of this shooting. I have no idea of Charlie's physical state at the moment, and information on Twitter. You're seeing, absolutely everything. I've just seen that JD Vance has tweeted for people to pray for him. I'm hoping that JD Vance is better informed than the rest of us, and that that's an indicator that Charlie is alive and that perhaps he's going to pull through this. I just simply don't know. But all of this relates to what I want to talk about today. We posted, I want to try to give you, and again, please understand, this is emotionally raw. This is very upsetting. I've been having conversations privately with colleagues, even before I heard this, that the kinds of things that we're dealing with are evil. I've been saying this on this show, that what we're dealing with is evil. In some instances, pure evil. The image that has been in my head is of this poor girl. This poor woman, will put her image on the screen, Iryna Zarutska, the Ukrainian refugee who was stabbed and bled to death in a Charlotte train. Also in my mind is news that isn't making much waves here in the West, but you need to be paying attention to. The Japanese prime minister suddenly resigned. We have, as we've been noting on this show, that Klaus Schwab has been forced out at the World Economic Forum, and two co-chairmen have been named, in BlackRock's Larry Fink, which is what our last episode was about, and Roche Pharmaceuticals CEO Andre Hoffman, that the two of them have been named. And my intention for today's show, since the previous episode was on Larry Fink, that today's episode was going to be on Hoffman, and I'm not sure we're going to quite make it to that today. But I do want to give you a bit of a timeline of evil and just a little glimpse behind the curtain of what's been going on, only just from my perspective. Meaning there are a lot of people engaged in the kind of work that I'm engaged in and are doing some of the same kind of things with similar goals to mine, to bring down organizations, NGOs, individuals who are evil, who are violators of law, who are anti-human, they're pro-globalist, they're evil individuals. Some of you will recall that those of you who have been following my work for some time, who are subscribers, members of the posse, you will know that for the last several years I've been going to the World Economic Forum. And I wanted to demonstrate some years ago the connection with some of the globalist policy and with the open borders. And so I went to South America on and off for the past 5 years, following caravans, engaging with these migrant caravans, talking to government officials, heads of NGOs, workers in NGOs, going into cartel towns, going to Darien, flying into the Panamanian side of Darien and the Colombian side, and witnessing firsthand, putting my life at risk to see what was going on in all of this. And seeing, of course, that USAID was playing a role in this, along with a series of at least 25 NGOs that were involved in this. And then I went from there just this year to the World Economic Forum, third year in a row that I've been there. Lord, please spare Charlie Kirk's life. Please comfort his wife and his children and his family and his friends. So I go to the World Economic Forum, and there I listen to all the globalists pontificate about how they're changing the world. People who insulate themselves from the reality of the policies they enact. I don't think any one of them has ever bothered to go to the kind of places that I went to, certainly not dangerous places where I went. Bill Gates doesn't go to those kind of places. Hoffman doesn't go to those places. Larry Fink doesn't go to those places. Klaus Schwab doesn't go to those places. George Soros doesn't go to those places. And it's because they don't care. They just don't care. People are just raw materials, the brick and mortar for the building of their utopian megastate. That's what they think. That's the way they see the world. That's the way they think. And anyway, at the World Economic Forum, here I am, seeing everything that's taking place there. And then I fly from there to Cairo, and I go to USAID, and that's when I was swatted. Now we'll be putting up some of these images, or let me back up from that. That's when USAID security, which is paid for by American tax dollars, my tax dollars, your tax dollars, if you're an American, USAID security detained me and my driver. We'll put those videos up for you that I managed to take. And they held me for about 2.5 to 3 hours. And it was clear that their intention was to do me harm. They summoned the Cairo police, who in turn summoned the Egyptian state security, the NSA, the secret police, whose job it is to off people, to disappear people. And that was clearly their intention, where I was concerned, because I was a threat to them. I was uncovering what they were doing. I'd already seen what USAID was doing in South America, and now here I was seeing what they were doing, almost certainly in league with Hamas, running operations, into Gaza and against Israel. And they were worried about what I might know. And so they initially accused me of terrorism, and then they accused me of espionage. So if you want to watch that video, all you have to do is go back and look in, January, February, March. And then I returned to the United States, feeling kind of safe, because I managed to get out of Cairo. And it wasn't easy, but I managed to get out of there. And I return to the United States, and I am really trying to recover from a couple of months of just arduous work. I'm overwrought. I'm physically, emotionally spent. And then in the middle of the night, my dog Ranger, again, we did an episode on this, my German Shepherd Ranger alerts me to the fact that there are armed men on my porch, and we'll put those videos up for you. And I could see three of them, the silhouettes of three armed men, body armor, pointing AR-15s into the house. I couldn't see initially that they were law enforcement. Turned out there were a total of 19 of them there. To quote the FBI, loaded for bear with another 30 units on the way. Now, it turns out I was armed too, poorly armed by comparison to them, but I'm crouching in my kitchen. I see a guy trying the doorknob to come into my house, and I'm thinking, if that guy comes through the door, I'm going to smoke him. And I'm going to end up getting killed, possibly my wife getting killed too, because I'm hopelessly outgunned here, but maybe I can get the drop on one or two of them. Again, this is before I realized they were law enforcement. And then eventually I did see that they were law enforcement. I turned on the light. We spoke with one another, and fortunately I was dealing with sensible police officers, and all's well that ends well. But again, I tell that story in the full story in a different episode of Ideas Have Consequences. Since that time, I've been working on some other things, but all of it is related. The Japanese prime minister resigns. Why? Because he was running something of an open borders kind of policy. Why was this Ukrainian, this beautiful, vulnerable, precious Ukrainian girl, was she murdered? Because you have leftists putting a career criminal, violent criminal, back on the street after 14 felonies, and he stabs her to death, and she just bleeds out right there. You see the video of it. You see Charlie Kirk being shot, possibly murdered. I don't know. You see riots in Kathmandu, Nepal. Why? Because these are populist movements against elitists. You see the open borders policy that was being run here during the Biden administration is one that the WEF, the World Economic Forum, and their conspirators, their co-conspirators in South America, in Western Europe, and other parts of the world, Japan, have been running. This is what they're doing. The Japanese prime minister was trying to bring in loads of Africans into the country, alien culture being imported into Japan. And the Japanese, it's not here on the table, but I've written a book called Around the World in More Than 80 Days, in which I have a chapter on Japan. I was in Japan, and I said, the Japanese, they like Japan as it is. And I call the chapter Japan Great for the Japanese. The Japanese feel very protective of their own culture. And frankly, I admire them and respect them for it. They have that right. But their prime minister was conspiring against them to do something that the people themselves did not want. Does that sound familiar? That's the kind of policy that's being run in Brazil, that's being run in Colombia, that's being run in Panama, that's being run in Mexico, that's being run in the United States, in Canada, in Britain. I mean, the open borders policy of France, Italy, all these places, it's all part of the same agenda. And it's all part of the same agenda that creates an atmosphere of hate that results in multiple assassination attempts on Donald Trump. And now the shooting of Charlie Kirk creates an atmosphere of hate towards white people, hence the murder of this Ukrainian girl. And it's the same players, the same alphabet soup of evil that's involved in all of this. Individuals like George Soros, organizations like the World Economic Forum, like the Open Society Foundation, like BlackRock, like the United Nations, like the World Health Organization. These are organizations that are, to what extent they're cooperating with one another is almost immaterial, because the fact of the matter is they're all using the same playbook, and they're conspiring against ordinary people. This is why you're seeing uprisings, populist uprisings all over the world. And that's what's happening in Kathmandu, is that the people have had enough of their communist overlords who conspire against the will of the people, don't care about the will of the people. So I've had some very unusual experiences as of late. I have been doing all this heavy research. I've been off of social media. I've been off of X. If the posts you see there are posts that are being done by staff, but I've been doing this research on fascism, communism, the militant left, the things that they're engaged in, the things they're doing. And I have some serious pain issues. It was why I was up in the middle of the night when I was swatted, which is that, and the fact that Ranger, my German Shepherd, wouldn't let me go to sleep because he was aware that something evil was taking place. But my pain issues are related to an accident that I suffered 10 years ago next month. And, I broke my back in 19 places. I broke 19 vertebrae. I broke my neck. My face was broken in multiple places. I have a metal plate in my jaw with screws that hold it together. I broke all my ribs on the right side. I suffered a flail chest, lost 50% of my blood volume. Again, this has been discussed in other episodes of Ideas Have Consequences. But as of late, my pain issues have been worse, and it feels spiritual. When my pain gets really, really bad, I feel nauseated. So recently I was out of bed and I was throwing up just because I couldn't sleep. And then 2 nights ago, we had done this episode of Ideas Have Consequences that on Larry Fink, the BlackRock CEO, who's now, the co-chairman of the World Economic Forum. And I then was doing one. Again, you have to forgive me, ladies and gentlemen, my mind, I'm thinking about Charlie Kirk. I'm thinking about what has happened there. But it all relates to this. And so 2 nights ago, I'm really, really suffering from pain. And I wake up and I decide I will go and sit down and turn on something pleasant, something kind of cheery, and I'll just continue doing my research on Andre Hoffman. And what fascinates me, as I said in the episode on Larry Fink, the previous episode of Ideas Have Consequences, is that there's almost nothing about these guys online. And that's because they have, as I contend, I believe, they have an army of monitors. And I'm going to give you evidence of this in just a moment. But I'm sitting there and I am reading about Hoffman, looking for anything I can find that isn't just an interview with him or him spewing his sustainability, ideas, or all these kind of warm, fuzzy, articles about him in the Financial Times and all this kind of stuff, because these guys have the money to control the narrative and to keep what they want private to remain private. But I had this feeling that I was dealing with something quite evil, and it's an evil that reminded me of a quotation of C.S. Lewis in the Screwtape Letters. And I want you to hear this really, really carefully. It's not the evil of people who pull the trigger. It's not the evil of the mafia boss who, who's doing evil things and know he's doing evil things. It's the evil of people who never see the evil that they do because they insulate themselves from it. They just give the marching orders. And I was reminded of this quotation. This applies to these guys. The greatest evil is not now done in those sordid dens of crime that Dickens loved to paint. It is not done even in the concentration camps and the labor camps. In those we see its final result. But it is conceived and ordered, moved, seconded, carried, and minuted in clean, carpeted, warmed, and well-lighted offices by quiet men with white collars and cut fingernails and smooth, shaven cheeks who do not need to raise their voices. It's what I call casual evil. Elie Wiesel, who survived Auschwitz, he wrote a seminal work called Night. It's not very big. It's almost pamphlet size. I encourage you to read it. I think it won the Nobel Prize for Literature. But in it, Elie Wiesel says this. He says, the opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. The opposite of love is not hate, it is indifference. It's the casual evil of people who just create policies that affect dozens or hundreds or thousands or millions or even billions of people, and they sit with their clean-shaved faces and their white collars and never have to raise their voices. They fly in on their private jets and they fly out on their helicopters. And again, to be clear, what you're hearing there is not material envy. If I could fly around in a helicopter and private jets, I would too, but I would have the good sense not to go around lecturing people on their carbon footprint. I would have the good sense not to tell people the way they ought to be living. I'm a capitalist. I believe in capitalism. I believe the money you earn is yours. Pile it in the backyard and burn it if you want. But these are individuals who are using not really even their own wealth. They're using the wealth of American taxpayers against American taxpayers. That's what USAID, that's precisely what USAID was doing. So I'm reading about guys like this 2 nights ago. And I go to bed and I have a bizarre experience that now seems to me to be culminating in what just happened to Charlie Kirk. And I'm receiving texts from individuals. And let me look here and see if there's any kind of update. And I am not seeing an update. Perhaps my producer has received one. I don't know, but I'm not receiving any news that tells me whether or not Charlie Kirk has survived. I don't know. I'm not sure what's going on as it relates to this, but I go to bed and I fall asleep and I have the strangest experience. And those of you who listen to Ideas Have Consequences, who know much of anything about me, know that I tilt more intellectual, not emotional. I'm not a real touchy-feely kind of guy. My own Christian faith, I'm not charismatic. I am not a Pentecostal. I'm not a hand raiser, and I don't jump pews. Fine if you do. That just isn't me. But I only tell you that. I'm much more Presbyterian in my my theology, and we call ourselves the frozen chosen. So that gives you some idea of our approach in worship. But I tell you that to set up what I'm now going to tell you. As I'm laying there in bed, I kind of wake up to this sensation that there is a dark figure looming over me. And its head is, I'm of course laying down, and its head is here, but it's ink black, so it's featureless. I can't see eyes or a mouth. I don't see fangs or horns or anything like that. It is just a silhouette from here up. And I can't move. It was a terrifying feeling. It was that feeling that your arms, like if you've ever slept on a hand or an arm and it's fallen asleep and you can't move it, and you kind of have to rub it and such in order to get it. It was that feeling, my whole body. And I tried to speak to my wife who's laying next to me, and I can't get out more than a whimper. Just a little bit of sound. And then this dark figure, which never put hands on me. I never saw hands. It just leaned on me, its chest leaning against my chest, and then whispering softly in my ear, I know not what. I don't even know if it was English. And I knew it was a satanic, evil presence. And as soon as it was there, it was gone. How long did this last? 30 seconds, 10 seconds, a minute? I don't know. But suddenly I can move, and I sit up and I look around. I can see nothing. I see Ranger sitting in the corner. And then I hear a voice clearly, an angelic voice, saying to me, keep going, Larry. Next day, I get up, get coffee, go to work, do the things that I do, and I tell no one about this. That is, this is yesterday because I wanted time to process it. And then late yesterday afternoon, I told my wife, and I told her the experience and was getting her reaction to that. And I said, Lori, this is like the swatting incident because I'm not even sure what it was I did to set off the swatters. I mean, they're domestic terrorists, and I'm not sure. I mean, I'm addressing a lot of issues on this show and in my writing and in my activity. Which one was it? Was it human trafficking? Was it globalism? Was it the World Economic Forum? Was it USAID? What was it? And keep going how? If the Lord is telling me to keep going, go where? Yeah, I felt a little bit like Kevin Costner standing in a cornfield. Ease his pain. Whose pain? If you build it, he will come. Build what? And who will come? That's kind of where I am in the process. Keep going, Larry. Go where? I don't feel like at this particular moment, as I said to Lori, I have had this type of very vivid, if you want to call it that, religious experience 4 times. And the previous 3 times, it was very obvious why I'd had it. The first was just before I did a prominent debate with an atheist. In prepping for that debate, you go into a dark, dark, dark hole because that's what atheism is. It leads you to hopelessness. It leads you to the recognition within that framework, that worldview. There's no justice. Love isn't real. It's just a Darwinian impulse. There's no ultimate right and wrong. People who do evil, they just get away with it. And when you will never see your loved ones again, you're just an accident in space and time. It's demonic stuff. And the night before that debate, I had this type of experience, not identical to this, but very vivid, very real. The second time was this feeling that I was being held protectively during my accident when I was hit by a car on a bicycle. I had this feeling that an angelic being held me almost like I was in a cocoon, and its wings wrapped around me and just kept wrapping around me and held me. And it was brilliant white and almost featureless too, but it was brilliant white. The third time was in the midst of my pain, my extraordinary pain, that Satan himself came and sat right next to me and put his arms around me and said, I would never let my children suffer like this. I'm not clever enough to think of something like that. It was a genius type of temptation. Abandon your God. Look at what he's letting you suffer, Larry. I'm a better master. Worship me. And until last night, I hadn't had another experience like that. That was 10 years ago. The last time I had an experience like that. Or excuse me, until 2 nights ago. So on each of those instances, I could easily connect the experience with something that was currently happening in my life. But right now, I was thinking, what's going on? Why? Why? What would I be doing right now to piss off Satan any more than any other time? Because again, it's not like I'm up to my eyes in USAID. That project feels like it's pretty well over. President Trump has dismantled it. It's not like I'm up to my eyes in the open borders and immigration issue and looking at the human trafficking that's going on south of the border. Trump has demolished that and closed the borders too. The World Economic Forum, I continue to be focused there, and I've been turning my focus there more because I'm getting ready for January. I'm getting ready to go again. And then I'm reading about Andre Hoffman and Larry Fink. And my initial feeling when I recorded the episode about Larry Fink was that Fink was the more important of the two issues. That it was, you know, if they're a rock band, this is Wham. And Larry Fink is George Michael, and Andre Hoffman is the other guy that you've long since forgotten about or don't even know his name because he's irrelevant. He isn't the one with the talent. He isn't the mover and shaker. And yet the other night, as I was sitting and reading about him, I started thinking, that's not true. This guy is fifth generation member of a family that owns the largest family-owned pharmaceutical company in the world, eighth largest family-owned, eighth largest pharmaceutical company in the world. They made $60 billion during COVID alone. And I was getting this feeling, you're dealing with evil people. But again, like I said when I ended the episode on Larry Fink, not evil the way you might think. Evil the way C.S. Lewis has just described here. People with clean fingernails and clean shaven and $3,000 suits, and you'd meet them and think they were reasonable, nice people. Even philanthropic. They give away millions of dollars to all kinds of allegedly worthy causes. But at bottom, they're fundamentally anti-human. Then I wake up this morning and my tech crew has texted me this. BlackRock has gone on my X page. BlackRock's official account has gone on my X page because we post not only on YouTube, but we post on X and on Rumble and across other platforms. We posted the podcast on BlackRock's CEO, Larry Fink. And BlackRock, because, again, these guys, as I said about Wikipedia, they have an army of monitors. They've noted that I'm saying something here that they don't like. So the official account of BlackRock comes over to my account and tries to tell people, don't watch it. This account is known for misleading people. And I showed it to my wife this morning over coffee, and I said, maybe the demon has just shown his head. Maybe we now know what it is, what cages we're rattling that has stirred up the demons of hell. I was in conversation this morning with Data Republican, a colleague, and Data Republican interpreter about how we're engaged in a battle against evil. Against evil. And the next thing you know, we get the news that Charlie Kirk has been shot. This is where we are, ladies and gentlemen. Jonathan, do we have any news on Charlie Kirk?
Not at the moment, just that he is in surgery. And I sent you a photo that someone screenshotted of him being shot in the neck.
So again, by the time that this episode plays, you will know way more than I know at present. This is happening live here. And we pray again. I ask you to pray for Charlie Kirk and pray for his family. Pray for his children. Pray for his wife. Pray for his friends. They're the people who really suffer in these circumstances, in addition to the victim. Ladies and gentlemen, we wrestle not against flesh and blood. We wrestle not against flesh and blood. And I want to warn you that I am not, you are not, none of us are equipped, are able to stand against the schemes of the devil. We are not. Now, some of you will watch this and you'll drop into the comments and you'll say something stupid that you think reflects your intellectual sophistication about how you don't believe in a sky daddy, how you don't believe in a devil. He believes in you. And I also want to be clear on this. In the end, everyone believes. Every atheist will believe. It's just a question of whether or not the moment of your belief is one of great joy or if it's one of indescribable terror because you waited until the author of the play, as C.S. Lewis, walked onto the stage, until you waited till the moment where Jesus Christ returns and judges. And if that's the moment you believe, it's too late. The Lord is real. Heaven is real, the place of reward for those who believed in him, not because they are in and of themselves righteous. I'm certainly not, but because the Lord has imputed his righteousness to us. And hell is also real. And I want to be clear on this point. Hell is a good place. It's a good place, not an evil place. God created it, and he created it good for the destruction of evil. The final destruction of evil. That's the purpose of hell. Hell is the great cosmic dumpster where evil will be disposed of once and for all. We wrestle not against flesh and blood. What the Apostle Paul was getting at in telling us that is that you need to understand that behind the evil things you're seeing, yes, there are evil people who are behind them, but even behind them is the devil himself. Jesus said that the devil has his children and they do his bidding. They do his bidding, whether they know it or not. They are his children. And it's for that reason, ladies and gentlemen, that you need to put on the full armor of God. When you go into battle, you need to put on the full armor of God. Let me read to you from Ephesians chapter 6, beginning with verse 10. Finally, be strong in the Lord and in the strength of his might. Put on the whole armor of God that you might be able to stand against the schemes of the devil. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. Therefore, take up the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand the evil day, and having done all, to stand firm. Stand therefore, having fastened on the belt of truth, and having put on the breastplate of righteousness, and as for shoes on your feet, having put on the readiness given by the gospel of peace. In all circumstances, take up the shield of faith with which you can extinguish all the flaming darts of the evil one, and take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God, praying at all times in the Spirit, with all prayer and supplication. To that end, keep alert with all perseverance, making supplication for all the saints, and also for me, that words may be given to me in the opening of my mouth, boldly to proclaim the mystery of the gospel, for which I'm an ambassador in chains, that I may declare it boldly as I ought to speak. Please pray that for me. Please pray that I'm able, in a platform like this, to lead people towards truth, to steer people towards Jesus Christ. I'm not your hope. Charlie Kirk isn't your hope. Donald Trump isn't your hope. Your pastor isn't your hope. Your husband or your wife or your children, they're not your hope, and your 401k isn't your hope. The only hope you or I or anyone else on this planet have, ladies and gentlemen, is Jesus Christ. That's it. I also want to say this to all you evil, evil people on the left, and those who persecute my brethren, my Christian brethren around the world, those who would murder an innocent girl The look on her face just breaks my heart. The terror. As a father, I feel rage when I see those kinds of things. People who would shoot Charlie Kirk, who would attempt to assassinate the President of the United States, that open our borders, that put criminals back out onto the street, that allow rape gangs to just run roughshod over the whole of Europe, the whole of the British Isles, and do not a damn thing. There is nothing you can do to prevent us from proclaiming the truth. And there's nothing ultimately that you can do to stop the fact that judgment is coming, and it's coming for you. You may persecute us. You may threaten us. You may swat us. You may shoot us. You may knife us. You may denounce us on social media. You may suppress our channels, BlackRock. You can take all that we have, and we won't stop. I'm just that much more motivated. I'm motivated on behalf of my friend Charlie Kirk. I'm motivated on behalf of those who were swatted, people like me, which is attempted murder by proxy. I'm motivated on behalf of the gospel of Jesus Christ, on behalf of those who are being persecuted, on behalf of a woman like this and thousands of others like her. We're coming for you. We're coming for you. Truth and justice are coming for you. Please pray for Charlie Kirk. This has been another episode of Ideas Have Consequences with me, Larry Alex Taunton.